Okay, you're asking a really good question. And we don't know.
Allora, sorry, just a moment, because la premessa è che c'è una commissione che giudica l'inserimento del bambino. La commissione è composta da esperti e da genitori. Di solito i genitori hanno l'ultima parola sul bambino. È chiaro che sta a cuore di tutti l'inserimento del bambino, però i genitori spesso spingono nella direzione che spesso è quella più regolare per l'inserimento scolastico del bambino. Adesso la collega chiedeva se per caso fosse anche la madre con maggiore capacità di insightful a essere più propensa a spingere il bambino verso una condizione di maggiore normalità, fra virgolette. Quindi secondo te più insightful, più...
Cioè la stessa cosa.
Ok.
If a mother can have the final word, the results, how can I say, it's the same thing. A mother with insightful can think that a child can be better in a regular class.
Can figure out which class fits more for his child, maybe. Cioè, puoi immaginare quale sia l'adattamento migliore, il contesto migliore per il bambino?
Well, you know, you're asking really a good question, and we don't know the answer to what. Okay, I'm showing you relationships between variables. When the mothers are like this, the children are like that. Now, what happened? How was this created? That's really a good question. If I'm an insightful mother and I sit in this committee, okay, and they're talking about my child, on the one hand, I want the child to be in the best possible place. On the other hand, I know that my child, you know, has certain, you know, limitations.
Yes, I can accept them.
And I can accept them. On the third hand, as we say, I'm hopeful that if we push a little bit, you know, he can make more. And, you know, there's another side to insightfulness, possibly, that I'm good at talking with the people in the committee because I'm insightful too. I'm insightful with them, and they see that I see the child, okay? They know this is, I'll put it in simple words, this is not a crazy mother. Okay, so to speak, you know what I mean. This is not just a mother who says, I don't care, he goes, no, this is a thinking mother. And the experts might say, well, you know, let's give him we think not, but let's give him a chance, because the mother is it's so important for her. You know, it can go in all kind of different directions, and we don't know that. We don't know the answer to what happened and what determined where the children ended up. We don't know that.
Ok, non abbiamo ancora la risposta, nonostante sia molto buona la domanda, però non abbiamo la risposta. Abbiamo studiato le variabili singolarmente prese e senz'altro una madre con capacità di insightful potrebbe spingere in senso di apertura speranzosa per il bambino, ma potrebbe anche accettare i limiti attuali del bambino, o potrebbe essere così una madre pensante da essere riconosciuta tale anche all'interno della commissione e quindi da poter in qualche modo riuscire a gestire meglio la situazione all'interno della commissione. Possono essere tante cose, tutte e tre le cose messe insieme, sono diverse variabili, forse per ciò non abbiamo la risposta.
Okay, so now we do a statistical analysis that I won't try to really explain here, but I will show you, you can understand that there are steps here, and we put the IQ first, and we put the interactional competence second, and we put the attachment third, and we put the insightfulness fourth. And what we want to see is what each one adds to the other. So the ones you put first, you give them the chance to explain more, and the ones you put last, you give them less chance because you've already explained a lot by the first ones.
Ok, in questo grafico in cui c'è, diciamo, la regressione statistica, è stata fatta una scelta nella disposizione degli step che è quella semplicemente riguardante la spiegazione maggiore in termini di fattore della predittività di ciascuno di loro, quindi quello che metti per prima, in questo caso l'IQ, spiega di più maggiormente il modello, diciamo, finale in termini appunto predittivi.
So an easier way to look at this is by looking at this pie and seeing how much percent of the variance is explained by each one of our predictors. So you see 27% is explained by IQ, okay? The biggest chunk is explained by IQ. Of course, IQ explains why some children end up in here, here or here, ok?
Quindi il 27% del quoziente di questo grafico è spiegato, e la varianza di questo grafico è spiegata dal quoziente intellettivo, che è un po' come dire che allo stesso modo con cui l'IQ può determinare in maniera attendibile l'inserimento scolare, può ugualmente spiegare in termini predittivi, spiegare la varianza rispetto al suo contributo nell'inserimento scolastico.
Okay, so of course it explains a lot because we put it first, you know, so that's part of the reason, because you give it more chance to explain if you put it first. Okay, the second one is communication.
Il secondo fattore che spiega la varianza è appunto quello comunicativo, sociale.
The third one, secure attachment with 7%.
Il terzo fattore è l'attaccamento.
And finally, insightfulness, even though we put it last on the list, after we gave all the other ones a chance to do their work, it still predicts a nice, significant 14%.
E l'insightful, nonostante fosse il quart'ultimo fattore, e comunque rimane un predittore significativo con il suo 14%.
And of course, you see there's always 35% of unexplained. So it's not like these four things explain everything. They explain about 2/3, and then a third is left for many, many other things that happen.
Ed un terzo è rimasto inespresso. Certo, non solo questi quattro fattori spiegano in termini predittivi l'inserimento scolare.
So the bottom line, I think, from here, if we look at this, is that in order to understand the educational placement, what predicts educational placement, it's some sort of a combination of cognitive factors, of interactional factors, but also of emotional factors and of insightfulness. And they somehow work together, and we don't know exactly how it works together, because this is, you know, this is a statistical way of looking at things, and you can divide it into pieces of the pie. But of course, in the reality, they're working together in some way. But we see that each piece here is important, and the insightfulness piece and the attachment piece, but actually the insightfulness piece, even though we put it in last, really plays an important role.
Ok. Non possiamo dire con la stessa semplicità con cui la statistica divide gli spicchi di torta in percentuali, non possiamo dire quali di questi fattori sia più determinante rispetto agli altri in maniera così lineare, però possiamo dire che tutti, ognuno di loro, fattori cognitivi, emozionali e l'insightfulness inaspettatamente in maniera così importante ed estesa, spiegano, quando combinati insieme, in termini predittivi, quale sia l'inserimento scolare dei bambini autistici.
And you see kind of a similar picture if you look at age 12 and a half, except of course that you see much more unexplained, because as the years go by, more and more influences are coming into play, because you know, time has passed by, but still you can see IQ and communication and attachment and insightfulness are still statistically significant.
Ancora, anche a 12 anni e mezzo, nonostante il tempo sia passato e i fattori intervenienti come quelli inespressi dal 56% siano un po' aumentati, ancora ciascuno dei 4 fattori spiegano in termini predittivi l'inserimento scolare in maniera significativa, ivi compreso l'insightfulness.
Okay, so when we think about the study, I'm getting close to the end, we have to remember that the sample is not so big, and we would want to do a study with a larger sample. And also that we focus here very much just on the mother-child relationship. And of course, there are many more things happening in the family except for the mother-child relationship. This is always important to remember, and maybe even more important to remember when you have a child with special needs.
Ok, tra le limitazioni e la limitatezza del campione, che è un po' ridotto rispetto a quello che ci saremmo proposti, e il fatto che qui le relazioni considerate sono esclusivamente quelle madre-bambino, mentre sappiamo essere importanti ugualmente quelle con altre figure di riferimento per il bambino.
And I think that what remains a big question here, and it relates to your question from before, is why is this, so if insightfulness and attachment are important, how are they important? What role do they play? And I can think of at least 2 explanations. There are more, but I will mention 2. One explanation, which maybe is the first one we want to think about, is the direct effect of insightfulness on the child, so that the child who experiences insightfulness develops a better capacity to understand themselves, to know what is difficult for them, to communicate openly about it, to be better regulated, so that when they are, for example, in a regular classroom, but things are difficult for them, they have better tools to deal with it, to talk with the teacher, to talk with a friend, to talk with mother, to solve the problem, so that they are better equipped to adapt to a more normative setting that is not really matched. You know, in a regular classroom, they cannot get the attention that is really special for them. They need to adapt better to the big classroom, okay? And maybe the insightfulness is what really helps them in that adaptive process.
Ok, vediamo in che termini i meccanismi possono avere una rilevanza, un'importanza per queste cose che ci siamo detti. Può essere che l'insightfulness sia un effetto diretto, che abbia un effetto diretto sul bambino, cioè che il bambino, sentendosi compreso, abbia una maggior capacità di interagire anche con l'insegnante, di aprirsi a una pensabilità diversa e mettersi in comunicazione con lei, oppure ho perso anche qui qualcosa, il discorso era parecchio lungo. Anche l'adattamento al contesto diverso di vita e al contesto scolastico. Ok, thank you.
Okay. But it could also be, like I began to talk about earlier, that it's not the effect of insightfulness on the child, but it's something in this mother who is insightful, that the way she works with the whole system. Okay, so the influence of the mother, on the therapists, on the teachers, on the counselors, and so forth. Imagine it from the point of view of a teacher or the psychologist of the school or whatever. You know, what is it like to interact with a parent who is insightful to the child versus a parent who is not insightful for the child? You might react differently, and your decision about the placement of the child might be influenced because you realize that this child has a mother who's really capable of insightfulness, or a mother who's really not capable of insightfulness, and you know you're dealing with a mother that is simply not seeing the child at all. It may elicit from you a more negative, decision in terms of placement.
Ok, oppure può essere che questo abbia un collegamento indiretto, un effetto indiretto nel caso in cui le madri capaci di insightful sono maggiormente in grado di interagire e mostrarsi come madri pensanti e quindi avere un intervento anche, come ci diciamo prima, rispetto alla commissione nelle scuole e con gli operatori del settore? Negativamente, come potrebbe essere in altri casi. Chiaro. Grazie. Can you translate that last thing? Yes, the last thing, and also that also the teacher doesn't feel as invasive. Also, the intervent of a thinking mother as an insightful mother, for example.
Okay. All right.